Hey everybody, Coach Dave here, guys. Super excited that you guys tuned on. Super excited that Easter have just ended, guys. And I know so many of you are like, what is next? What is going on next? So I wanted to dive on and just have a conversation with you guys. Just a little bit about stop guessing and start growing. Many people had just had a wonderful Easter. Come on, let's give God a praise for those of you that saw major momentum happen on this path. Let's go ahead and give God a praise right there for what God has already done and for what God is going to do because the best is yet to come. I'm about to jump on real quick and invite a few people to come on. So if you're on right now, let's go ahead and share the link with some people, some pastors and leaders. You know that this right here might be something really good for them. So I'm about to do that real quick. Take the link and kind of take it to that next level. So let's just go ahead and share the video real quick. I want to give you guys a link to be able to share the actual video. Somebody could share it inside of the post. Super excited about what is going on and all of the pastors and leaders that have done such a wonderful job making sure that we are taking it to the next level. So the idea here is that many people have had a wonderful Easter. Most churches, we call it the Super Bowl of the church's Easter service. And so with that being said, a lot of times we don't know how to ride the momentum that happens after Easter. And so I want to tell you how I break up as a church consultant, previous pastor, how I see and how I view when it comes to Easter. I believe there are three seasons in a church year. I believe that there's the Easter season, and I believe that we should be preparing for Easter in January, and it should go through April. So this is season number one, Easter season. And this right here is promotion, invitation, and more memorable experiences that prepares people for the harvest. And so our goal here is to get people ready for the harvest that's happening. But this is not the harvest season. Easter season is not the actual harvest. This is a time where we're going to plant seeds for the harvest. This is spring season. This is a great time for you to get seed in the ground. And many times we think that our churches are going to grow from the Easter season, and very few churches grow largely. Normally we do plays after Easter to kind of help create momentum to see maybe a 15 to 20% growth or spurt. But many people don't start going to church in the springtime, summertime. They normally go in the fall time. I got a play for that for you. So you use Easter to promote, to invite, and to create memorable experiences that prepare people for the harvest. So after Easter, I believe that you got to develop momentum. And as I begin to talk about momentum, momentum is that very point now where we're going to start developing a summer momentum. So from after Easter all the way to August, here goes the game plan. We want to build leaders. We want to strengthen our systems. We want to develop dream teams before the next wave will arrive. So this is a time of developing. But right after Easter, here go three plays for you. We want to do a summer fun day. We want to do a baptism ceremony the Sunday right after Easter. Then we want to do a fun day, barbecue, petting zoo. So we want to find three ways to get people to continue to come back out to our churches. And so with this being said, you want to make sure you ride that wave. And the greatest thing you can do is follow up. I know most pastors and leaders, they normally take a break after Easter, but the church I work with, Renewal, we started working even harder the week after Easter to make sure that our follow-up was good, to make sure that we were doing the things that were necessary to be able to reach the people that are lost. And some of the churches I get to work with, yes, this is a season where you begin to make sure your next steps are clear. And so what is a clear next step? I believe a clear next step should be at the end of every sermon. It should be at the end of every phone call. It should be at the end of every text message, every letter. What is the next step you want to get people to? And so first we got to look at the pathways of your church. And so for us, at churches that I work with, our next step is to get people to go through growth track, or we want to get you into a small group, or we want to get you to baptism. These are three next steps that we believe in: baptism, growth track. Growth track is going to help you find out what is your purpose, what have you been called to do, what are you anointed to do, what has God called you to be. And then the third area or way that we're going to get you to is that we want to get you into a place where you can find community, and that is the circle, because we believe that people grow in circles and not in rows. So let me talk to you a little bit about the summer momentum. And this is where we build leaders, we strengthen systems, and we develop dream teams before the next wave arrives. And so you got to have a pipeline to make sure that your team is growing with leaders and with team members in order for you to be able to hold the people that you need. And so for me, I call it this the 1/3 rule. So I believe that you need to have a dream team of 1/3 of the amount of people you want to reach. So your camp, let's say you want to get to 300 members in the fall. You're right now between 175 to 225. You want to get to 300 people. You need to have a dream team of at least 100 people. So you got to have a simulation to get people to understand why are they here, how are they wired. And so this is the momentum, the summer momentum, and let's go from May to August. And then we got our growing season. Our growing season is between September and December. It's harvest, discipleship, momentum. So people do not just attend church, but they become the church. And so this is very important for you to understand the 3 seasons. The season number 1, Easter season. Season number 2 is the summer momentum. And then season number 3 is our growing season. So knowing when you grow is different. Now, the West Coast, this is a little bit different because growth for those that are on the West Coast happen in July. And so their seasons kind of break down different. So it's a little bit different for them. All right, my next thing is that how to stop guessing as a pastor. I used to think of growing a church. I just thought like if you build it, then it will grow. I used to think of those terms. I used to think, man, all I can do is build it, and once I build it, the church is going to grow. That was the mindset that I used to have. I didn't think that there needed to be intentionality. I didn't think you needed to have playbooks. I didn't think you needed to have all of these things. I thought if you preach Jesus and Him crucified, that the church would grow. And later, after going to churches, studying church history, church growth, I began to realize that you could be the greatest preacher, you could build the biggest church. But if you do not have a system to be able to take them to where they need to be, your church will not be able to be what God called it to be. Let's think about this for a moment. When God created you, God created systems within your body to be able to handle what happens. Number one, he built a nuclear system in your body. He built a system where from your head, which is the centralized place of your body, it communicates down through your spinal cord to all the different areas. So my thought produces me moving my hand. It produces me talking and all of these things. Then he put a digestive system inside of us. He put a blood system inside of us. And they all have an operation. They all have an assignment. The same way that God has done with trees, what God has done with vegetation. God has a system for everything. And so systems does not take away the Holy Spirit. What it really does is it enhances it. It gives us a vehicle to be able to help people get to one place to another. And so if your ministry do not have systems, what happens is that there is no clear pathways for people to grow and to go to the next level that God has for them to go. So we got to make sure this happens. And so you have to lead with conviction, call people higher, and keep message practical for real ministry life. So you got to be able to keep conviction, you got to call people higher, and you got to keep the message practical. I love the Chris Hodges strategy because he believed if you think in systems, pipeline, and leadership health, and if you focus on growing leaders, you will build strong volunteer teams, and you'll create enough momentum for the long term of the church health. And so I really believe that healthy churches do not guess their way to grow. They plan their way to grow. And the play that we use for this is that we want to plan to reach, we want to build for connection, we want to develop growth, and then we want to release people to go. And so this is the Bible way where God tells us to go and train people and develop them in Matthew 20:19 and send them to go off and do what He has called them to do. This is very important for those that are taking notes today, to making sure that we're doing this as we go to church. So the Easter talking points I want to talk to you about, what should pastors say on Easter? And Easter is over, so if you haven't got this, this might be good for you for your Sunday service or any service. Easter is promotion season. We make the invitation easy and an atmosphere unforgettable. We create memorable experiences that opens the heart before the sermon ever starts. We do not just want to fill the room, we want to prepare a field. And then every guest matters because every guest has a story. This is very important. I was just teaching growth track last night, and it was super amazing that on Zoom we were having growth track, and I went around to everybody that was there, and I told everybody, you got a story. And everybody began to share their story and why they came to the church and what happened and, why this church has changed their life. And those stories, it shows the momentum. And so these are stories I'm going to share, when I get with the dream team and tell them, man, because of you, we had 8 people come to Growth Track and said their life has been changed by this ministry. And so it's very important to be a storytelling church. And my good friend TJ Williams, the pastor of Life Point Church, that's at Phoenix, Arizona, he told us that stories matter. And so you got to get people turned around stories. You got to get excited about stories. And so I want to talk about connection in season 2. You have 90 days to stabilize follow-up groups and get pathways. So a lot of questions that I get from pastors is how much is too much follow-up? So what I believe that there should be week 1 of an actual person coming to visit your church for the first time, or making the decision in your church. We got to make sure that we reach out to first-time guests the same way that we reach out to people that join the church. I think you got to be able to have clear next steps for that call. So I feel first, within the first 24 hours, I prefer by the evening of that Sunday, that the first thing you do is that you're going to send a text and tell them, thank you for coming to the church. I think that is first and foremost. I think your next one is going to link them to something. Hey, we're having baptism this Sunday. We would love for you to go. Here go a link for you to sign up. I think the next way that you're going to get them is that you're going to send a handwritten note by Wednesday, Thursday, so they will get that by Saturday and tell them, hey, we would love for you to come back to church on Sunday. I think this play is a really great play. Following the 3 points of contact, I go for week 2 to 2 points of contact. So now I'm going to reach out to you in 2 ways. I'm going to call you for prayer, or I'm going to go ahead and send you another text message inviting you to another next step. So, hey, we got family fun day coming up. I'm going to connect you to another next step to get you around people. I'm going to connect you to a small group, but it goes. So week 1 is going to be 3 points of contact. Week 2 is going to be 2 points of contact. And then week 3 is going to be 1 point of contact. And then we go to an every 3-week model. So every 3 weeks, we're going to connect you to, especially that we got coming up, we're going to baby dedication, something we're going to do to try to get you in the building. But I think your number one thing you got to do on the week after people attend your church for the first time, you want to connect with them at least 3 times. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. What are those standpoints? You want to reach out those 3 times. Week 2, you want to hit them twice. Week 1, you want to hit them once. And then we go into a 3-week revolving cycle to make sure that we're getting them to where they need to be. All right, so we got 90 days to stabilize our follow-up. We also want to have small groups. Now, let me talk about small groups real quick, because many churches that I work with have a hard time with launching small groups. But small groups are very important because small groups allow people to get community. They get to find who is their tribe. They are able to grow with that group of people. And so there's many ways you can do this. Some people do it every month. They break down the study guide of their sermon series, and then people go and they have discussion questions to talk about them. We have freedom groups. We have interest groups where, people that love to play basketball can get together, play basketball, pray, read a scripture, but they stay connected to community. So whatever that looks like for you, but you do need a community other than Bible study. Bible studies are good. I grew up on Bible studies. But in Bible study, even on Sunday mornings, it's really not community-based where I'm getting to know people. I'm getting to do life with people. I'm getting to pray with people, be accountable to people, be vulnerable among people. And so you really need that to be a number one thing. Okay, and so number 3, you want to have 3 summer priorities for leaders, dream team, assistants. Those are your 3 things in the summer you want to get better. You want to do, one thing that I do for churches that I work with, I go and do audits. I do an audit of their planning center or whatever system they use, because when I go to the planning center and I look at the audit, I'm looking for things like, are you reaching out to people, frequently? Are your emails, are they effective? Are they getting engagement? How many people are looking at the emails? How many people are responding to text messages? Also, I want to know, where are the people that are coming to your church, where are they coming from? I'm asking questions. And in my class last night when I was doing Growth Track, that was one question I asked. How did I hear about it? And we realized that 90% of the people that were on there heard about us through an Instagram ad that we posted and that we shared and that we boosted. So that shows you that online engagement has been powerful, because people were like, I was on my Instagram page and I saw a link about the church, and I clicked on that link and planned my visit. So that is really great. And we have created a system where we have our own like church candy model where we're able to help churches in the 757 and nearby cities be able to build a crowd of people that come to your church, at least 7 to 8 people every Sunday to be able to come and visit your church for the first time. And so we call that Accelerate Visitors that we are launching next month. And so this is going to be a wonderful time because we cracked the code at some of our churches where we're seeing almost 30 to 40 visitors every month. If you don't get visitors in your church cannot grow. Let me say that one more time for those of you in the back. If you do not get visitors in your church won't grow. I don't care how anointed you are, how much you pray. You gotta have people in order to convert and to get people to becoming new believers. So you need a system. And some of you, I was talking to one group of pastors, and I was telling them that oftentimes we cannot rely on invite culture because most of the time our people are not inviting at the level that we need them to. Number one, they haven't been taught. There is a script in a playbook for people to learn. How do I invite people to church and drink water? How do I invite people to church? And so there's a playbook that I created to help you create an invite culture with your members to teach them how to be confident when it comes to sharing their story. How do they be confident when they talk about and brag and rave about their church? There is a science to it, y'all. It's not happenstance. There is a science, and I got that play for you as well. So our priorities as leaders, dream teams, and systems. Now, most people tell me all the time, how do you create leaders to handle the growth of your church? And I tell people this all the time, if you do not have pipelines, you will never be able to grow healthy churches. Pipeline is saying who got raw potential, who's faithful over doing what they've been asked to do, and who can we develop. You do not get the team, watch this, that you want. You get the team that you build. And if you do not understand this principle, it's going to be really hard for you to grow your team or grow your church. And we have one main goal, and that one main goal is that we want to turn attendance into belonging. People need to come as a guest, and need to leave or feel like they leave as family. So these are some of the things and practical steps to making sure that you win as we come into these other months. Now, there are some things that you can do and some practices that I got in the summer. I love 1 month in the summer having movies at your church. I think that if you take a movie theme and say at the movies at your church, you have 4 movies that you're going to do a parable. You're going to preach a sermon based around the movie that came out, and you're going to have popcorn, soda. You're going to get everybody as you can, get tickets, get people there. It's going to be a great time to build momentum, a mini Easter in the middle of your summer. So in July, August, this should be the play. You should have it set up real good, get some characters in your church. And y'all, we're about to be at the movies at our church. And I'm going to preach a great sermon based around the movie that is relevant. And we're going to kind of have popcorn. We're going to run this play to kind of get people in the door again. And our goal is to continue to get people into the building, to get familiar with us, to learn who we are. And then we're going to push the play. And that's how we're going to be able to build that momentum that is necessary to get to the next level. And so as I talk about building leaders, I don't want you to wait your summer. I want you to use it to raise leaders. And when it comes to discipleship, and this is a whole new model that a lot of African American churches that we're really adopting, because we've been great at doing church, we've been great at building churches, but a struggle that I feel like many of us have is how do we develop disciples? And the hardest thing about developing disciples is I can't build disciples through a presentation. I can't build disciples on a Sunday morning sermon. I can't build disciples because we read a book. I build disciples by doing life with disciples. When we look at Jesus' role model in this for us, what Jesus does is that he goes and he recruits people and he says, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. Right there what Jesus is talking about is that I want to use who you are and I want to use what your background is and I want to change it to do something for the kingdom. I'm calling you out of something and I'm calling you to something. I feel like preaching. And so are you doing that in your ministry? Are you helping people connect? I'm calling you from something, I'm calling you to something. The next thing that Jesus does with his disciples is that he travels with them. He lives among them. He eats among them. And this right here is what builds community. When I pastored my last church, one thing I did every Sunday is I wanted to get as many people with me out to eat at the table where I could go ahead and disciple and talk life and build them and help them. Because some things are not taught, some things are called. Bishop J.W. Jones, one of the realest in the game, I grew up at New Day Pentecostal Church in Indianapolis, and he used to say that fish cannot live without water, just like the saint can't live out of the church. And what the model was that he was teaching is that you got to model and you got to create an attractive church that want people that want to be believers to come to that place to be able to become who God has called them to be. I'm calling you out of something and I'm calling you to something. Discipleship is our modeling before people. This is what leadership looks like. This is how we build. And when I build disciples, not just leaders, but I want to build leaders that have a discipleship emphasis, they're going to go and they're going to do what I call the 3 C's. They're going to lead with clarity. They're going to lead with chemistry. They're going to lead with capacity. And then I added 2 more to it, y'all, to kill the game. You're also going to lead with care, and you're also going to lead with coaching. If you do not have leaders that know how to do all 5 of these things, if they don't know how to share vision with clarity, if they don't know how to build chemistry among the team by living out values, if they don't know how to build capacity, if they don't know how to care for people, and if they don't know how to coach people, your leaders are not going to be able to get there. So the first question I had to ask myself with this, y'all, as I began to lead teams, lead pastors, and lead people across the nation, is that I have to say, do I live these 5 things? Because I got to live, breathe, and I got to think these things. I got to be able to have these things in my heart. Am I able to give clear vision? Clear vision, that's clarity, clear. Am I able to develop chemistry? Am I able to show capacity? Am I able to care for people? And am I able to coach people to the next level? Now, if you want to develop a high-functioning team, you have to be able to have teams that do all 5 of those things. Because if you don't care for me, you can't call me to do something for you. And many of us, we wonder, why don't people show up when we put them in planning center? Why don't people show up on a serve day? Why do we have this issue here and there? And the reason that we have that is that most of the time, people cannot do something if they don't feel cared for. And in my book coming out next month, y'all, shameless plug, y'all got a book coming out called Click or Clash. It is the 3 languages that every team speaks. Guys, I got a curriculum for this. If you get your church leaders and your church members to understand the languages of the other people that are there, life is going to change. It's going to be bananas. God is going to be glorified. And you're going to be able not to be clashing in cycles, becoming a crashing team, but you're going to develop clicking teams that know how to navigate together. I see Bishop Conyers is on here. God bless you, Pastor CJ Dane. God bless you guys, those of you that are on. But you want to make sure that your team is clicking, that they're not clashing, and that they're not crashing. Now, one thing I told some people the other day, I was having a conversation with a group of people, and I told them that I like teams that got problems, because a team without problems is a team that is not growing. I want to say that one more time. A team with no problems is a team that likes growth. So the issue with teams that grow is that there got to be problems. I mean, when you look at Jesus with Peter, that was a problem child right there. I mean, Peter, he wanted to cuss at people. Peter denounced Jesus. Peter, did all of these different things. But Jesus realized, he cut a man ear off. Jesus realized one thing, that people will always produce problems. You cannot have a ministry without messy people. I just want to be honest with you. So when messy people come, watch this, you got to know and be able to have a system to be able to recover the ear that was broken. You have to be able to teach them, even through the problems, of how to get on track. And this is very vital, because anybody that develops great leaders know that it's a messy business, and you got to be able to know how to do this. And so we're going to talk about some of those things. You want to strengthen your team culture before the fall rises. And so when it comes to culture is not the behaviors that we put on paper. Culture are the values that we live out. So if you say that we are a generous church, you can't just expect for people to give on Sunday if you don't show generosity as a church. Come on. We want you to be generous, because you don't give to a church, you give through a church. But we want to show videos and show you the impact that we're making because of the giving that you're giving. And I realize that churches that do not have a generosity of their model have a hard time raising money. And so if we're going to have values, we got to live those values as the leaders and as the churches as ourselves. Another thing, if you're going to have a value of love. What does love mean to people? You got to love people in the three ways, because oftentimes we lose 2/3 of the room when we talk, because some people are hearts, some people are heads, and some people are hands. And oftentimes, if we're not careful, we will only talk to 1/3 of our team, and they will be nodding and people will be agreeing with us. But when they leave the room, they will be gone. They will not accomplish what's necessary because we're not speaking their language. How many times, pastors and leaders, have you had a group meeting that seemed like it was going great? You were talking the right talk, you were doing everything the right way that you know to do, and you begin to realize that you were losing people simply based upon the model that you were going through. And I mean, this happens all the time. I mean, where we're losing people in our conversations because we're not talking their language. You got people that talk head and they talk thinking. They talk, what is the plan? Like, can we have a plan? Can I talk the process out with you? You have people that are hearts, and hearts are people that are fillers. They want to know how they're going to affect people. And then you got doers. I don't want to have meetings. I just want to know what needs to be done. They are checklist kind of people. You got to be able to model this, guys. And like I told you, shameless plug, book, Clicker Clack, coming out next month, everywhere books are sold. All right, now building the dream team. Now this is important. You got to audit the gaps in the parking lot. You got to audit the gaps with your children's ministry, your hospitality, your production, and your follow-up. This is why I said this week for y'all are game-changing weeks, because you need to find out what is broken in your system now in order for you to fix those things later. Because if your system is not built for the biggest Sunday you have, you got to start expecting every Sunday we're going to have the big Sunday. One thing about growth is that when you get in those growth areas, that growth happens like everybody come at the same time. Let me give you an example. I was working with a church that was struggling with between 142 to 175 people every week. I mean, every week they just couldn't do it. No matter what they did, they were just struggling with this number. And then we kept on doing the growth models. We kept on implementing the playbooks, implementing the plays, and then they jumped to 300 people one Sunday. They came, and the ministry went from 140, 150, almost to 300 in a matter of a 6-month period. We just looked at numbers, and numbers grew. This wasn't an accident. It was that if you continue to keep the work going, what happens is many of us think that it's going to happen gradually. Gradual growth don't happen. You do a whole bunch of things and then growth happens. It's like when you plant a seed, a mustard seed in the ground, you don't just get one mustard seed for that seed. You get a whole thing of mustard seed, of mustard greens, And this is the same thing that happens when it comes to church. If I continue to do the right systems, the right play, and if I act like I'm already at the number where I want to be, if we do ministry at that level, when that level come in, we're ready for that level, because the first impression is a lasting impression. You get what I'm saying? Right. So we got to celebrate volunteers often. So I believe one play everybody should do by the end of this month. You should get your whole dream team together and you should celebrate. You should take them out to eat. You should go play a game. You should go to the escape room and just share with them. I appreciate all the hard work you did. Because in May, we're going back to work. In May, we're about to develop leaders. In May, we're about to get a dream team together. In May, we're about to do mock services. In May and June, we are about to build a leadership pipeline to get our ministry to the next level. And I cannot criticize what I don't celebrate. I feel like preaching. I want to say that one time. I cannot criticize what I don't celebrate. Many of us are critical people, but we don't celebrate. And you got to have some celebration going on in there. So you want to make sure you do that. You want to celebrate the volunteers as often as you can. And then also you want to move people from consumer to contributor. I call it, you got to turn visitors into vision carriers. You got to turn visitors into vision carriers. How do you do that? You got to be able to get them to a place that is so excited about the ministry that they are able to help take that ministry to the very next place. Okay, my next thing I want to talk about is growing though. September through December is harvest season, but harvest only matters when people are discipled and deployed. And many times the question I ask, are you ready for the harvest season? Because right now, if you're not preparing for harvest right now, something's wrong. And so number one, you got to reach the harvest. That means you got to use Welcome Home Sundays. You got to use fall rhythms, and you got to gather people back to church. Now, the reason that the fall season, and I always talk about that's the harvest season and why it's so important, is because people create a pattern of going back to church in the fall time. So we used to have back to school Sunday, but I saw over here on the East Coast in the Midwest that most churches that are growing are going to grow in this period of time. They're going to grow in the fall season. And so in order for you to grow in the fall season, you've got to be able to have some plays and some things in place in order to help you go to the very next level. So you want to make sure that you get ready for Welcome Home Sundays, that you get fall rhythms, that you gather people back. Number two, you got to connect people. You got to move guests into relationships. You got to get them in groups. You also got to get recurring touching points. You got to continue to get them back in there. You got to grow disciples, create clear pathways for spiritual formation. And then you got to go on mission. You got to release people into serving and inviting and making disciples. You got to do this. And that goes into the four things that you got to do. The question number one you got to ask yourself is for the reach. What are you doing from January to Easter to make invitations easy and experiences memorable? Number two, connect. You got to ask yourself these questions. What will happen in 7 to 30 days after Easter so guests do not disappear? Number three, grow. You got to see how will summer building leaders strengthen culture and preparing your people for the fall? How will summer build leaders, strengthen culture, and prepare people for the fall? Then you got to go. And when I say go, I mean, what is the clear path for people to serve, lead, invite, and make disciples by the end of the year? You got to ask yourself this. So what can pastors do for memorable steps moving forward? So let me give you my coaching line. What gets measured, get attention. I want to say that one more time. For those of you in the back of the room, I'm going to be in C sharp when I get there. What gets measured, get attention. What get attention, get improved. Pastors do not need complex dashboards. They need a few stable scorecards. And so you need to make sure that your scorecards are winning. So I want to say one more time. What gets measured, get attention. What gets attention, get improved. You got to make sure that you give attention to growth. You got to get attention. And all the time, the pastors that I work with, they know, I always ask them, what are measurable wins? That's pretty much what I'm telling you. What are your measurable wins on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? And then what is your measurable wins on Sunday? If you do not have measurable wins, you will not be able to accomplish the dreams and the goals that you have for your ministry, because you got to be intentional in order for you to get to where you're trying to go. So guest follow-up got to be complete. You got to be good at guest follow-up. I mean, this is a no-brainer, but guest follow-up got to be good. You got to have text in church. You got to have planning center. You got to have some things on auto-populate. You got to know when to call your people. You got to know what's the best time to send out messages on Instagram. I know some of y'all just pop messages out. No, there's data on that. You need to know when are people viewing messages on social media. Most pastors do not know this. You should know that. Your media team should know. We just don't post videos just at a certain time because it seems good. We want to post videos at the time that works high. So you can chat GPT this. Hey, in my area, what is the best time to send out an Instagram message? What is the best time to post a Facebook message? You know, right now, chat GPT, if I live in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, what is the time that people are most likely going to be on their social media? Normally, that's around lunchtime. So I'm going to send a message out between 9 and 10 because the algorithms is going to get it there by 12 noon. If I need them to look at something then. If people are going, if I'm trying to get people in the evening, people get off work, I'm sending a message out at 3 o'clock because I want them to watch the message by 5 to 6. It takes about 2 hours for algorithms to hit the different people in the different ways for your media post to be able to get the attention, the attention that it needs to be able to go to the next level, the traction that it needs to go to the next level. And so then you got to go to volunteer engagement. How do you communicate to your volunteers? How do you communicate to your team leaders? How does that information get down? One thing I realized is that sometimes you got to repeat cycles and you got to make sure that your team leaders are communicating to the teams after you meet with them. Ways that we do this, you can do this through Planning Center. They got a way that you can communicate with people, or you can set up groups through GroupMe, and you can have different groups, pastors be a part of everyone, so you can make sure that information and that engagement and all of these things are going on. So every ministry have a GroupMe. For every ministry, have something in Planning Center where communication is going. Another way that we do this is by scheduling. You want to make sure that people are scheduled. I don't care how small your church is. Your church, let me prophesy to some people right here, will never be this small again. I want to just stop right there and just give you a word right now. You are the smallest, and I hope you say this to me. You are the smallest that you will ever be. I want everybody that's watching right now to put that in here. We're going to declare something and say that my church, that the church that God called me to, will never be this small, will never be this size again. My team will never be this small again. That my life will never be this small again. Because God is a God of growth. I want to say to me, God is a God of growth. God is a God of multiplication. God is a God of growth, but God only gives us our measurement. I still ain't seen nobody get no comments right now. This is a good time to leave a comment right there that my church will never be this small again. Okay, Justin, I see you. My church will never be this size again. My team will never be the size again. Our finances will never be this size again. What you don't envision, what you don't write down, will never come back. One of my mentors, Pastor Chris Hodges, got one of the largest churches in America, out of Alabama. And one thing he said, he was like, he don't get why people don't write vision, don't go in vision, because vision is free. Writing down your vision is free. Only one person did that right now. I'm believing God. A couple more people are going to do that real quick. That my church will never be this size again. It will never be this small again. That it's going to grow. Because all I do is win. I'm going to be a winning church. We're going to get these systems to play. So volunteer engagement, you want to get people from being a visitor, and you want to convert every visitor to a volunteer, and you want to take a volunteer and you want to make them a vision carrier or culture carrier. And the way that you do this is that you got to have an assimilation program that is simple, that helps people find their purpose. You got to do a ministry assessment. You got to do a gift assessment. And one thing that the churches I work with, we do the Omada assessment, which is written by the book that I just told you guys about, that it gives people, what am I wired like? What kind of person am I? My heart, and my head, and my hands, like what does God call me to be? And how do you communicate to that language? It's very important to make sure that happens. God bless your pastor, Alex Holt. And so volunteer engagement is very important. Number 3, group connection. You've got to make sure that groups are connected, groups work. Come on, somebody, you gotta get groups work. If you do not have groups, it's very hard for you to be able to accomplish what you need to accomplish, because more is given, more happens in circles, people grow in circles, life change in circles. I hear stories from circles all the time that people went to the hospital, the circle took care of it, the pastor didn't even have to go. He found out later, they were like, we already did this, we already took flowers, we already prayed for them. Circles are so powerful, small groups are so powerful. We need to make sure that connection is happening, because everybody is not called to be a part of your dream team. Some people are just called to be in a place or in a season of actual small groups so they can develop, that they can get foundation, formation, all of those different things that are needed for them in order for them to be who God called them to be. There got to be something. You got new believers coming to your church for the first time. They need to be able to have an assimilation. They need to have a clear next step of where do I go next? How do I get to the next place that God has for me? So you got to have group connection, and then you got to have a serving pathway. A serving pathway. One thing that I love that one of the churches I work with is on 5th Sunday. That is a community engagement Sunday where they go out to the community, shut church down. Offering still be good, y'all. Come on, somebody, give God praise. They put an online video out of a sermon, and they take a song that they did before, playlist, put that all together, and people are out serving people in the community. Videos are being done, lives are being changed, people being loved on, because we want to demonstrate generosity as a church, because we don't believe that you give to a church, you give through a church, and a church got to be generous. If you value generosity, you got to be generous. Come on and give God a praise. And so this is very important for having serving pathways. The reason I need more people is because I'm believing that God is taking us to another level. Stop guessing. Start growing. This is very important. You do not need more random ideas. You need a simple strategy that matches your session. If you need coaching, y'all, I am a coach. That's what I do for a living with Accelerate Leader. I'm doing this to give this away. I'm not doing this asking for anything. God told me to be generous. And so I believe, just as a person that has pastored for over 15 years, that has been from, pastor ministries, director of ministries, youth leader, I realized that sometimes the most loneliest place you can be is in leadership. I want to talk to that pastor. I want to talk to that leader, that one of the hardest places, the loneliest places you could be is in leadership, but you don't have to stay there. You don't have to do ministry alone. You don't have to go through alone. You don't have to struggle alone. And this was one of the reasons why I created something what I call Pastors Meetup in the 757. And we're going to be doing that the last Friday this month. For those of you that's like, hey, I really need to have a way where I can become who God has called me to be, that I can be who God has called me to be. And it's very vital that we understand that God has created you for something great, that God has created you to be who He called you to be. And all you have to do is be able to say, God, I'm going to give you praise. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you with what I have. And not too long ago, I preached a sermon at Renewal Church. And the sermon was very vital because what the sermon really laid out, it really dealt with the oil. The lady had the oil. I began to preach about that and talked about the importance of using the oil that God gave you. And she said, I have nothing left. And in reality, what she was really trying to say is that I don't even know what I have. But God told her, use what you already have left, and I'll be able to get you to the place that you need to be. And many of us are not using what we have left. And I think that that's the issue. And the more she poured the oil, the more she began to get the access of what she needed. The more that she began to pour the oil, the greater anointing that came over her life. The more that she poured the oil, God began to do what He can only do. And so I believe that we got to just use what God has already gave us. And all we got to do, y'all, is just use the oil that God gave us and keep on moving and keep on going and allowing God to do what only God can do in our lives. So at this time, I'm going to open up the floor for questions. Those of you that are on here, if you have any questions or any thoughts or something that you would like to see happen, that you're believing God for, something that I covered that you have questions on, I want to give you a few moments to go ahead and ask any questions that you have. Anybody, any questions? We have a few moments for questions. Thank you for all tuning on today. And if you would like more information, I just want you to just send me a link right in here, send me a post and say more info. I do strategy calls with pastors, 1 hour for $97, just to kind of help you organize your thoughts, organize your vision, organize your plan. And so that's for you. You can just put in here and say, send more info, want more info, and we'll be able to get that over to you. Okay, I got one. How do you maintain momentum to people for people to get people to return after Easter? That's a really good question, Pastor Alex of Renewal Church. And so, how do you maintain momentum? And the way that we maintain momentum is number one, identifying what our wins are. Number two, having clear next steps. And so, clear next steps are going to be the things that get people to the place they want to get to, because you got to keep people excited. And so, baptism, I know this Sunday, most churches that I work with are doing baptisms on this Sunday. Why do we do that? We're going to get more people in the room because the most unattended service is the Sunday after Easter in America, according to Barna Group. And I believe that the way that you change that up is by making sure that you create events for people to come, get their families in the room, and that they can be excited about what's happening in their life. So I think that every big event that I teach churches to do, we want to have 3 events at the end of it. So the play that we weren't working with one of the churches I'm working with, we're doing baptism Saturday. Then on Sunday, we're going to be doing a petting zoo. And then the following week, we're going to do a family cookout. And so these are ways to get people back, to show love, to show appreciation, and get people to where they need to be. And this is how you maintain that momentum. The way you maintain it is by getting them in your simulation program, get them to a circle or get them to a dream team. And that right there is going to yield, because the average person go to church 1.6 times a month. The average person stay at a church for only 3 months if they do not find a purpose. So if you want to keep people longer than 90 days that come to your church and you're fighting with, I get a person, I lose 2 people. I get 2 people, I lose 3 people. If you want to get out of that, people got to be able to see themselves in your ministry. But ask yourself, is our children ministry good? Is our first time impressions good? So you got to ask yourself these questions, and you got to build it one team at a time. And some of y'all saying, well, Coach Dave, I don't have a lot of people. And I get it. But you can't be great at everything maybe at one time, but you got to be great at something. So be great at the areas you can be great at now. And as you grow, God will send you more people that can be great at some of the other areas. Some churches are trying to do revivals, trying to do, feed the homeless, trying to do all the different things in the world. God only called you to grow a church right now and grow a team. So when you're in that small things, partner with churches. I don't know if people like to do that no more. Partner with churches. Sow a seed in churches that are doing it and ride that momentum. I ain't got enough people to go out and serve 150 people, but I can sow a seed of $200-$300 to support a church that's going out doing it. So what y'all did, and I can tell our church, hey church, look at what God blessed us to be able to impact today and do. So you don't have to do everything to be great, but find what is our area and how can we do what we're great at. And if you're great with hearts, I got one church I work with, they got the greatest hearts ever. And we work that way. If you go to that church, you're gonna get all the hugs in the world, you're gonna get all the love in the world, you're gonna get all that. It might not be people in the parking lot. You might not have people that are able to do all the other things, but at least you're gonna get that. Whatever God has called you to, work with what you got, build what you got, don't patch what you got. I want that one more time. Build what you got, don't patch what you got. Many of us are patching things because we don't have the capacity for it. So I tell churches, do a couple things really well. The things you got to do really well, you got to do your first impressions, your lasting impressions well, and you got to have good follow-up. If you got those things down, your church can grow. You won't grow mega yet, but you can grow to that 150, 200, 250 mark. Just off that, having a good system, you can grow with 250. You don't even got to be a good preacher, but if you got these things down, you will grow. You ain't got to have a praise thing. But if you know how to love people, make people feel like they family, if you know how to follow up with them, if you know how to get them to baptism, get them to growth track, get them to a circle, get them to a dream team. If you know how to connect these, you will be able to accomplish what you need to accomplish. Thank you for that question, Pastor Alex. Are there any other questions? Any other questions? Well, I'm so grateful for everybody jumping on. Thank you, Pastor. Anybody else have questions? This is a great time to get those questions answered. I got about 7 more minutes on here, y'all. 7 more minutes. Don't miss this moment, y'all. I just want to let y'all know. I know y'all been going hard up to Easter. Don't miss this moment because what you do now, it matters. What you do every day, it matters. You got to run the play. You got to keep going. You got to run the moment. You got to keep momentum going. Find pockets of rest in your ministry. Find a rhythm of rest. In 2 weeks, give your people a break off. We ain't gonna do no meetings. We ain't gonna do nothing for a week. Find moments of rest, but it's go time, y'all. On Mondays, you should be thinking every Monday. I have meetings like, hey, what went good? What went wrong? What we gonna build? What we gonna fix? I don't want to wait. If we're gonna take Mondays off, take Fridays off, Pastor. Mondays are so important because you gotta ride that momentum. You gotta ride that wave. You gotta get your people excited while they're in that moment. And you gotta be able to start making changes. You gotta start finding out and telling them what is the win. When you meet with people, what is the win? And then you gotta have good questions. Good leaders have good questions. Don't criticize. We talk about creative celebration, culture. So you're not criticizing people, but you're building people. So when you do come and correct, they're ready for it because you did a great job of celebrating. Any other questions for me, guys? Any other questions for me? I got time for about 2 more questions. 2 more questions. See, Pastor Justin is on here. Come on, Hope City in the building. The CJ Van, okay. Elevate Church. Any other questions for me? All right, everybody. Well, thank y'all so much for your time today. Don't believe I got any more questions. Hope all goes well with you guys. If you need any other information, you can follow me at www.accelerateleader.online. I'm here to help you build your church, build your leader, and see God do everything He needs to do with you. One thing I need, and one thing I realize, that every leader needs a coach. Every pastor needs a coach. You need a cover, an overseer, a bishop. I get that. But you need a coach if you're going to be great. One thing I realized, LeBron James, Steph Curry, all of your greatest basketball players that are considered the greatest, they got multiple coaches for everything. They got coaches that help them in every form and in everything that they do. And so people that are considered successful got coaches for what they do. You need a coach, you need a consultant to help you because we're going to help you get speed to the very vision that God has given you. God bless you guys tonight and have a great night.